Okay, before we get started, I'm going to introduce you to a buzzword. And that buzzword is pseudocode. Pseudocode looks like the computer language you're aiming to write, but it has English mixed in with it. It's kind of a design tool, so you can outline for yourself and others what you intend to do with your code. So it's nothing the computer would understand, but it's to give you some idea what you're planning to do. And most of what I will be showing you here is really pseudocode. It's not quite Alice and it's not quite English, but hopefully it's clear. So anyway, we're planning a car trip, and we'll set a variable to represent the amount of gas in the tank. And we have 3 gallons in the tank. And we'll have another variable that represents the amount of gas we'll need for the trip. And let's say in this case it'll take us 2 gallons for this trip. Now we can write some pseudocode to describe our decision-making process. If the amount of gas in the tank is greater than the amount of gas we need, then we just go. Else, if it's not true, fill up. Okay, and you may have already seen this structure in Alice. It's if, then, else. If, and then you state some condition, which can either be true or false. If the condition is true, the computer then does what's after the then. If it's not true, it does what's after the else. In our recent class, we got confused because I assumed that you were familiar with the notion of assigning truth values to variables. But it's kind of a subtle concept to grasp, but it's really important. So I'm going to set up a variable called enough. And I'm going to set it equal to the truth value of this expression. Running off to the edge there. Okay, so after this statement or command, if you will, is executed, enough will be equal to either true or false, depending on whether there's more gas in the tank than we need. In addition to numerical values, variables can take on truth values. So what we can do now is erase this. And we can just put the value of enough in here. And it will have the exact same effect. So if our need is 2 and our tank has 3 gallons in it, then the value of enough will be true. When we come down here, the computer will do the then clause rather than the else clause. Now if we change this to 4, figure out where my pen is here, here we go, then enough will have the value of false. This will, and then this will go to the else clause down here. Variables in a computer language can have different types. We can have a numeric type, obviously. We can have a string type, And in Alice we can have various other types. One is an object type in which a variable basically points to one of the objects or actors on your screen. It can represent colors. And in Alice there is a so-called Boolean type which can be true or false. Oops. And true here is not the string true, not the sequence of letters true, but simply true. Now, all of these are represented in the computer as digits in the memory, ultimately, obviously. But we don't have to worry about that. The computer language takes care of that for us. And when we set something equal to true, it will be treated as true or a true statement wherever it appears. So if we have an if clause, we can have if some comparison, whether A is greater than B, or we can just have some variable. Either of these will work. Now there's one more thing. Let's see if I can get my eraser here. There we go. Remember that I told you that this equal sign in a computer language means take the value on the right side and put it in the variable on the left side. So you can't write things like, as I said before, 2 equals A. That makes no sense. And you can't even write things like A plus 2 equals B. This won't work either. There has to be one assignable variable on the left-hand side. If you do something like this, the computer will give you an error message. It won't solve equations for you. You have to figure that out for yourself. Anyway, to distinguish between this what you could call an assignment operator, meaning A is assigned the value 12, suppose we want to test for equality. Suppose we want to write an if clause, and we want to say if A equals B, then do something, and if A is not equal to B, do something else. In many, and I would say almost all computer languages, we would write this: A double equals B. You use the double equal sign to test for the equality of A plus B, to distinguish it from the assignment operator, which is this. And at the risk of really blowing your minds, you can actually write something like this. And what will happen here? I hope you're ahead of me. If A is equal to B, C will get the value true. If A is not equal to B, C will get the value false. And then you can use C in an if statement down the line. Okay, next let's look at how this works in Alice.